In Caitlin Clark's last 3 games, she's averaging 6 turnovers per game. In Caitlin Clark's last 3 games, she's also averaging 10 assists per game. I think this has been the best playmaking stretch she's had all season, but the turnovers are at a pretty high rate at 6 a game. She's had 18 over the past 3. We're going to break down every single one of these turnovers, talk about where they came from, how they happened. We'll see if they're her fault or her teammates' fault or just, a lack of chemistry. Maybe it's even a lack of awareness, or maybe it's even a lack of experience because, she's a rookie. We're going to break that all down right now, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly will. Now, in this first play, what you'll notice is that Caitlin Clark seems to just kind of trip here. There's actually a few turnovers that you're going to see where it's just Caitlin Clark tripping. I don't know how this is happening, why it's happening, but she just loses her footing and she falls down. And yeah, that's where that turnover comes from, in my opinion. I don't know if you saw something differently, but I saw her falling down. In my opinion, this next play is a good play, but it's just bad execution. Notice how when Timmy Fagbinley cuts, Caitlin Clark does see it. It's a good pass. She just does not get it through. It seems that the defender just got her hand in the cookie jar and touched the ball. And I think this play was a good representation of calculated passes comes with experience. So this is a great look, but then the way you pass the ball, the angle you pass the ball, that's going to come with experience once you learn your competition. The players in the pro are a lot different from in college, so you're not going to be able to make the same passes as you were in college. But that's still the right look, and once she gets her execution under check, great things are going to happen for Caitlin Clark. The vision is there. Execution has to be developed. Once again, this is the right look. I think it's a very difficult pass, but it is the right look, and it is a pass you want to make. I think she was a little too weak on this pass. I think she should have threw it a little bit harder, maybe a little bit higher, a little bit lower. I don't know. But, if she would have just tweaked the way she threw that ball a little bit, that would have gone through, and that would have been a good pass. That just comes with experience. She's learning the game. She's filling out the player. She's a rookie. Great passers, players who over 3 games can average 10 assists per game, they're going to have their failure, but their failure leads to success. She has to have experiments. She has to throw these crazy passes so we can have the crazy highlight reels. Like if you look at White Chocolate and his highlight reels, I mean, that man was spectacular when it came to passing the ball. But if you know White Chocolate, he averaged 4 turnovers per game, I think, in his second season in the NBA. Like, you're going to average turnovers if you're going to throw crazy dime passes. But eventually, you're not going to throw the ball away as you get more acquainted with who you're playing against. But let me stop rambling. Let's get on to the next clip. Now, this pass wasn't strong enough in my opinion, but it was the right look. She passed it to Kelsey Mitchell because Kelsey Mitchell should have got the ball here. And I think it was the right play. I think she probably passed it too early, or maybe she passed it too late. She probably could have passed it to Kelsey a little bit earlier, but I think she should have waited for Kelsey to get a little bit closer to the basket so she could have a better pass. But the defense did play the break well, so maybe she should have just not tried to pass it. I don't know, but I do think this was the right look because there's no one else to pass it to, and I don't think there's any sense of her keeping the ball. So I think she could have threw the ball a little bit differently, but it was the right look, just bad execution. It just falls back on execution. Now, this next play, I think Caitlin Clark is just being indecisive, and I think her indecisiveness, that split-second decision, she second-guessed herself in it, and I think that's what causes her to lose the ball. If you notice, she just loses the ball in this play. She doesn't even get a good pass out. It just kind of flicks off her hand, and she loses it. And I think that has to do with that split-second decision-making that has to be developed when you're in the pros. Things are not as easy as they were in college. They're also not too much harder. It just has to do with don't second guess yourself. Like, if you're going to second guess that pass, you're not going to make a good pass. Personally, I think Caitlin Clark should have shot the 3 there. Even the announcer was like, hey, you should have shot a 3 there, Caitlin. But at the end of the day, she didn't shoot the 3. And if you're going to pass it to Timmy, that's not a bad look. You just have to be very sure of yourself, because if you're second guessing yourself even the slightest bit, what it can lead to is a turnover. You're just losing the ball. And I think that's what happened here, but that's just my hypothesis. I could be wrong. Now, in this last play, it seems like the defender just takes the ball. What also could have happened was that Caitlin Clark just lost it. I can't really tell, but it does seem the defender just got her hand on the ball, and that's what caused Caitlin Clark to lose it. Either way, of all the turnovers in the game against Seattle Storm, I think they were all Caitlin Clark's fault to certain degrees. I think some were more her fault than others, but they're all her fault. So the idea that out of this game, all of these turnovers were just her teammates just not catching the ball, that's just untrue. Like, that's just not true. A lot of turnovers from Caitlin Clark in the past have been from her teammates not passing the ball. I've done many videos on that. You go check them out. A lot of them are her teammates not catching the ball. But in this game, no, that's not the case. 3 of the turnovers from this game were basically the right look, just bad execution. The right play, the right pass. I want her to make it again, just make it right. And then 3 of the turnovers were her losing the ball / tripping / the defender just getting her hand in the cookie jar. I think that's what those were. Now, this next turnover, I don't think it's Caitlin Clark's fault because NaLyssa Smith does a pick and pop with Caitlin Clark, and she pops out very far instead of rolling. I think Caitlin Clark anticipated that she was going to roll. That's why she threw the ball in front of NaLyssa Smith. I think she assumed NaLyssa Smith was going to roll to the paint, and NaLyssa Smith does not roll to the paint. So you could call this one chemistry. I don't personally think this one is all Caitlin Clark's fault. What you could argue is that as a point guard, you should not pass a pass until you have clarity on what your teammate is going to do, because you're giving the ball to your teammate. You're not telling your teammate to get the ball where you threw it. So obviously, partially, this is kind of Caitlin Clark's fault. But more so, I think it's just NaLyssa Smith and Caitlin Clark not having that chemistry. And I think NaLyssa Smith should have rolled here. I don't think it makes any sense to pop out in this instance. Either way, you know what? This one is just chemistry issue. And I think this can be prevented if both NaLyssa Smith and Caitlin Clark have a general understanding of what the other player is trying to do. Now, this next play looks like Caitlin Clark is just bailing out Kelsey Mitchell. The time is running out. You get to about under 10 seconds. And you know what? Caitlin Clark, she gets the ball and she's trapped. And you know what? Nobody comes to help her. No one comes to help her. She has no help. And that's a hard pass to get to Kelsey Mitchell at the top of the key. So Kelsey Mitchell does eventually cut, but she only cuts after she realizes that Caitlin Clark is passing it. I think Caitlin passed the ball too early, or she may have anticipated that Kelsey Mitchell will be farther than she actually was on that cut. So I think this one is really just a chemistry issue. I don't, whatever was happening in this play to where you get to the point where Caitlin Clark has to get the ball nearly in the corner where she's trapped and there's no action going on. It's just a chemistry issue, and Caitlin Clark takes a blunt of it with a turnover. Now, this next play is not Caitlin Clark's fault at all because it shouldn't have been a turnover at all. Actually, it should have been a shooting foul. Even the announcers voiced their frustration about this because this is a shooting foul. And let me take a moment to talk about the refs for a second. There's no way you get this call wrong because this is the defender biting the bait. They bit the bait. But you know what? Caitlin Clark is not in the wrong. All she did was pump fake and then shoot the shot. This is the call that you get in the NBA all the time that ends up being a shooting foul. If you pump fake and the defender bites that bullet and then they find themselves in the cookie jar and they're in your landing space, that is a foul on the defender. That is not a foul on Caitlin Clark. They call this an offensive foul, which translates to a turnover. I don't think this is a turnover at all. I think this is bogus, and I think the referee just got the call wrong. Now, this next play I think is the right look. Caitlin Clark just does not put enough emphasis on that pass. I think she should have threw it a little bit higher, or maybe she should have threw it a little bit longer. I don't know. I'm not out there on the court. But at the end of the day, this pass was just not executed in the correct way. But once again, it's more of the right look. It's the right look, bad execution. I've said it in one of my past videos. Caitlin Clark has amazing vision. That's one of her strong suits. She has visions. You bring that from college to the pros. It's not something that you have to learn in the pros. If you have vision, you have vision. Caitlin Clark has vision. So I like her vision, the way she's using her vision. I like the passes that she's making. It's just bad execution, in my opinion. Now, this next turnover is not Caitlin Clark's fault, in my opinion. She might be partially at fault, but Aaliyah Boston literally is just not in position to catch the ball. There's no way a big should be posting up a guard, a little guard like Diana Taurasi, and is not able to catch the ball. I think that pass was given in the right place, and I think if Aaliyah Boston was posted up correctly, she would have caught the ball. I personally just don't believe Aaliyah Boston had enough urgency in the catch. I don't think she tried to catch the ball as much as the defender tried to steal the ball, which is why I believe it resulted in a turnover. In the second half, Caitlin Clark only has one turnover, and that turnover is her tripping. She just trips and she loses the ball. Once again, I don't know why this keeps happening, but she is tripping, falling on the floor. Caitlin Clark trips again. So in this game, I think 3 of the turnovers weren't really Caitlin Clark's fault. They're the right look, just bad execution on Caitlin Clark's part. And one of these turnovers were just chemistry issues, in my opinion, but it was really a bad pass. You could really argue that most of these are chemistry/bad pass. Either way, let's get on to the last and final game. Now, this next turnover, Caitlin Clark just trips. I don't know why this keeps happening, but she trips again. Yeah, that's what it seems to be. Now, this next turnover falls back on Caitlin Clark making the right pass, just bad execution. I think she should have threw the ball a little bit higher because Aaliyah Boston can't catch it from where Caitlin Clark threw it. It's really just a bad pass, but it is the right pass, which is, a testament to Caitlin Clark's great vision. She just has to adjust and have better execution once she gets to the pros. Now, this next turnover, I think Timmy Thagbinley just doesn't catch the ball. You could argue that Caitlin Clark throws the ball off the bounce a little too high, but I think it was still obtainable. But I can't really tell from this angle that well. But either way, I do not think this turnover is entirely Caitlin Clark's fault. It's probably partially Caitlin Clark's fault, but I think Timmy Thagbinley could have caught the ball. This next turnover, I can't really tell. It seems the defender gets their hand in the cookie jar, but what could have happened is that Caitlin Clark just loses the ball again. I don't know why she keeps losing the ball, because it even seems like on this play she's unbalanced. I don't know why she's tripping and this is happening, but there have been a lot of turnovers that seem to be that way. Now, this turnover, it seems like Caitlin Clark just throws the ball off her foot here, which is what results in the turnover. She just loses the ball once again. I don't know why this keeps happening, but it happened. Now, this last and final turnover is the defender just stealing the ball. I think it's the right look, just bad execution once again on Caitlin Clark's part. And that will conclude all the turnovers in this video that we're going to go over of 18 turnovers. I think 6 of them were just Caitlin Clark just losing the ball in some way, whether she tripped, whether the defender, got a piece of it. I think she just loses the ball on 6 of those turnovers. 8 of those turnovers is the right look, in my opinion, just bad execution. I've talked about it in one of my videos past. Caitlin Clark is getting the right looks. She's just not executing on those looks. But vision is something she already has. She just has to learn how to execute. 3 of these turnovers, I think, just weren't Caitlin Clark's fault at all. You could argue more were really not her fault, but I think 3 of them were definitely not her fault. And one of these turnovers, I think, were just chemistry. But you know what? All of these turnovers are really just chemistry. But there's one of them that's just really like a chemistry issue, in my opinion. But you might have different opinions on how these turnovers happened. I'm just showing you the film, showing you the facts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly did. I'm going to get out of here because my camera is about to die. So I had to kind of rush, but more videos to come. And yeah, I'll do a video on her assist if you guys want that tomorrow. So yeah, I'm out, man. I got to go. My camera's on 1%. Peace out.